Halo campaign Evolved is soon upon us, but the early access period has proven one thing at least: this franchise is in the wrong hands, unfortunately. And Microsoft nor Xbox are willing to do anything but allow this once legendary series to get modern audience into complete and utter oblivion, if I'm being honest with you. Where do you begin with this now? Well, the game is being called lifeless by fans who paid extra to play this game early, citing that parts of the game feel as if they were not even made by human hands due to how ludicrously out of touch it all feels in action. Eckhart's Ladder, a YouTuber, posted a clip comparing Halo's original cutscene where Master Chief turns on the Forerunner bridge versus the remakes. And if you're a Halo fan, you're probably going to see why this is really, well, not very good. Here, watch the clip. So context there, this is technically, if I remember correctly, the first time Master Chief interfaces with ancient Forerunner technology in the game. So the cutscene is used by original Bungie, to convey how Chief has an almost innate understanding of how Forerunner technology works, which is very important. This is important to show in a cutscene because this technology, at this point in the story, is something the Covenant alien threat are kind of unable to understand or utilize to their advantage. So it's meant to be shown in a cutscene that the Master Chief is able to interface with something that he doesn't understand fully, which obviously alludes that the connection between humanity and Forerunner is more than meets the eye. Well, in the remake, this scene is just gone. Chief's entire interaction is removed. There's no cutscene, and as you saw, the bridge just turns out. Why? Well, because 343, or Halo Studios as they're called now, they sort of hate the whole Forerunner thing. That's why. He now completely misses the point, is what's going on there, which is why what I just showed is likely going to make any actual Halo fan mad, but for good reason. Because Halo Studios does not understand Halo. Of course, you're going to have guys like this person here on Twitter who claim that Halo Campaign Evolved is better than the original in every way, and apparently I'm already blocked, which, if I remember correctly, isn't this the guy who wouldn't have any following if the Act Man didn't prop him up originally? Maybe I'm wrong, but anyways, this dude is getting dogpiled for bending his knees so deep in the sand that his back's currently getting blown out by Halo Studios at this point on purpose. But here we see this guy fighting with a commenter who is laughing and ratioing him. This Mischief guy claims that Halo Studios' version of Halo 1 is the exact same game. But well, you just saw how they removed Master Chief's interfacing with Forerunner technology, so that's interesting. This guy doesn't even bring up, probably because he doesn't even know the difference, which is what Halo Studios is banking on. That if they just convince enough people that the new version is better because it has nicer graphics, they can swindle in other things that weren't there as well and get away with it and even normalize it too. Here's more comments where this guy just keeps taking a beating in his own comment section, where he tries to defend sprinting in Halo 1, which has already been confirmed to trivialize the gameplay because you can technically just run past large amounts of enemy forces by just, well, not engaging and running past them. Which kind of breaks the game a bit, because if you played the original Halo like I did when it first came out, you would know sprint did not exist in the game. Chief just moved at the same pace, but it was by design. It was to ensure that the gameplay flow felt perfect, and you couldn't, for example, sprint like a madman past hordes of enemies and then just move on. Yeah, sprint kind of stops when you're shot, that's cool, but just hide and sprint again and you can just get away. It doesn't change the fact that it's clearly a game that was still designed not to be implemented with mechanics that people didn't have originally in it. If you want to find your modern gaming audience slop enjoyer, I think this comment perfectly encapsulates it, where this other user says the original will always be better. Then this Mischief guy says this: if everything is viewed through the lens of a nostalgia merchant, sure. Oh, okay. So the problem here is we're viewing Halo as Halo was meant to be, which is apparently wrong. But that's factually incorrect according to this guy. Instead, we should be totally fine with what was arguably a masterpiece that is being butchered. because it has to be made for a modern gaming audience like always. Slop News Network then says the game wasn't made in-house, to which this Mischief guy then says, that wasn't even made in-house. Why are we just lying about easily verifiable information? The remake was developed in-house by Halo Studios with Abstraction working on it as a support studio, aka perfectly normal game development. Except it kind of wasn't if you actually use Google. Windows Central, again, as I've shown in another video as seen here, proved that the leaks say that Halo Campaign Evolved was largely created using outsourcing instead of in-house development. The people at Halo Studios that worked on the game to a degree, yeah, that is true, but if the vast majority of that game's development was done outside of the place meant to make Halo games of all things, well then yes, the other user is technically correct. As Mr. Rebs Gaming confirmed here, there was a ton of outsourcing on Halo Remake. And who am I supposed to believe here? Mr. Rebs, the guy who has accurately leaked so much about Halo in the past for years upon years of reporting himself? Or some guy who still has Halo Studios residue on his lips from servicing them so much? Like, look, I'm not saying you can't enjoy Halo Campaign Evolved. Gameplay-wise, I'm sure it's fine, besides the added elements breaking the core philosophy of the game, but like the actual shooting is likely fine and feels responsive. I think if you're a Halo fan and you still want to play it, obviously I can't stop you. I'm not going to shame you for it, but I do think that we need to have an honest conversation here that maybe what's going on over at Halo Studios is something that does need to be addressed. For example, here's a clip of how the Marines react when you kind of land with the Warthog versus the original and the remake. Please watch this. Well, that was awful too, wasn't it? But again, because this studio, which can I just call them 343 Industries? Because they're the same people anyways, they just rebranded. Because the name was so trashed by the previous games, but that also kind of proves the point that 343 has such a bad reputation with Halo fans that their only way of going forward was to rebrand under a new name with basically the same leadership, okay? Halo 4 was not a great game. It wasn't terrible, but for what Halo is, I wouldn't exactly call it something that I was over the moon about either. Halo 4 also, from what I can tell, is one of the first pieces of entertainment that originally pulled what I would only kind of call the modern remake retelling trick. You know the idea of let's make a new trilogy, but the first thing in our new trilogy is just the original idea again, but slightly remixed? Halo 4, like Force Awakens or Jurassic World as well, are all kind of the same thing, if you get what I mean. These sorts of games, or films even, where if you place, for example, Star Wars Force Awakens up against A New Hope, it's almost the same plot beat for beat. They just swapped Luke for Rey. In Jurassic World's case, it's just as egregious. The film is practically the same as Jurassic Park, but just worse. It even ends in a similar way too. And Halo 4 is literally Halo 1 again, but also just not as good. I mean, Halo 4, like Halo 1, starts with the same thing, right? Master Chief being woken up by Cortana on a ship while they're being attacked by some threat. They crash land on some foreign world installation, whatever, that they don't understand yet, of course, that in Halo 1 or Halo 4, you fight stuff on this new world installation, whatever, that you don't fully understand. There's some bad guy who's trying to activate some ancient technology they don't understand to ruin the universe. You stop them, and then you get away from the planet installation, what have you, and then you return to humanity as everything explodes. I mean, it is just kind of the same game again, but that's what we call the soft reboot. And that's the term I was looking for, by the way. Soft reboot, that's what it's called. And 343, after Halo 4, they kind of lied to everybody with Halo 5. Remember the hunt for Master Chief with Locke, and it amounted to nothing and angered everybody? Halo Infinite was probably the most well-received, but even then, that game was egregiously predatory with microtransactions and more too. And like every other 343 Halo-made project, it limped on until they rebranded inevitably into Halo Studios, which is what we have now. And this is the same 343 people who did a Master Chief collection that was a collection of just the old Bungie games, that they made, and they couldn't even get that to work for years after release properly either. And now we're supposed to just accept that this is the same group that can make Halo going forward when they continually keep mucking things up. I'm just not convinced.
One of the keys to the success of the story is we didn't pump a lot of time into figuring out who the Master Chief was and why he was a ghost in his shell. We thought he is a husk. He's a big green suit of armor that you move around.
Master Chief is human. He's not a machine. He's not a set of armor with a big weapon. He's a human with resilience.
I know what that is!
Halo Campaign Evolved can be beat blazingly fast due to the sprint function. The art direction is cooked in certain areas. Not all. I'll say some of the game looks nice, I will admit. And they have added things that weren't there originally that do not adhere to what Bungie did originally either. For example, remember how in the original Captain Keyes has an older Marine helping him in the chair who's a white guy? Well, not anymore. Look here on screen. They even race swapped the guy in the chair in a random cutscene because modern audience, ladies and gentlemen. They did it again. Well, surely OG Bungie loves this Halo remake, right? Well, Niles Sankey, who was a mission and campaign designer at Bungie during their glory days, he worked on Halo 3 and was also the lead mission designer on Halo Reach on Bungie's final Halo game, as we all know. So what does Niles, who helped make these games, think of characters like the cool super badass female ODST they shoehorned into Halo campaign Evolved? Well, here's Niles' reaction to that. Please watch this.
Not bad, Spartan. I'm almost starting to believe the propaganda.
Yep, nothing gives this Halo remake a seal of approval than a former Bungie developer's reaction to the female ODST being a swift punch to the gut. Niles had more to say as he combed through Halo Studios' remake of the original game, where he said this: "The Halo devs have apparently decided that the majority of Marines should now be women. I'm fine with occasionally seeing a woman Marine, whatever, but we're starting to enter clown world territory here." No, they're not going to like that one, but he is right. They did do that to the game, and that is a problem. These sorts of changes, they may think it's harmless and say that it's a nothing burger, but that's because those people are modern audience slop enjoyers for a reason. If you're an actual Halo fan, you know the vast majority of why people love Halo is because it was a male-dominated sort of game. Didn't mean women weren't in it or women couldn't play the game. They could, but it was male-dominated. And clearly what Halo Studios is doing is they're taking something you loved incorrectly in their opinion, and they are now retrofitting it to appease to their modern sensibilities. It doesn't work, and it always comes off as disingenuous too. They're effectively trying to erase the core identity of Halo, one of the golden pillars of games that male gamers out here look to as something that shaped their identity when it came to life even, and their enjoyment in video games, and it's an embarrassment. Again, Niles made some of the Halo games, so is he a chud too? Say what you want, but the guy that made Halo 3 and Reach, he probably knows what he's doing and what he's saying. I mean, Niles' Twitter profile description is to the point too, like as you can see here where he says himself that he worked at Bungie before it died. And I mean, the Bungie we have now is also a shell, and Halo is being led by outsourcing instead of institutional knowledge like it used to be. Here's somebody with pronouns in their bio saying that they feel sorry for anyone who shares the same gene pool as Niles because he said he's tired of seeing things he loves getting ruined. And Niles also just kind of trolls the person, which is the apt way to go about it, by the way. We then have a so-called Halo fan saying, as seen here, "Oh god, the chuds have discovered Halo when it comes to the female ODST, but no. The chuds, as you call them, actually made Halo. The entire thing wouldn't exist without your stereotypical straight chud male brains working in unison to create that masterpiece in the first place, actually. And to have Master Chief as your profile picture, by the way, too, that is so cringe. This is what I can't stand, right? These people act like the past just doesn't exist or doesn't matter, as if Halo wasn't what it was. But instead, they're going to try to convince you that Halo was made by a development studio compromising of only women or something when it wasn't. Bungie was started, and their games were made primarily by an overtly 90% plus amount of just straight guys working to make cool video games. You can get mad about it all you want, you know it to be true. The whole game has religious undertones for a reason too, which 343 has worked tirelessly to remove because adhering to those religious beliefs is evil now apparently, and well, we gotta remove that too. Yes, remove any semblance of what made Halo Halo. Just don't let them remember the literal game's name is named after the thing that sits above an angel's or God's head or anything, as a clever spin on science fiction, with it being a ring meant to wipe out the flood of all things. Also, please ignore the fact the name of the bad guys are the Covenant and the Flood, religious Christian undertones maybe. What, in my Halo games? What are you, a chud or something? What do you mean the Forerunners created something called the Ark to protect them from the Flood? No, there's no way that's a clever use of Catholic Bible-like terms in your space science fiction military shooter game. I refuse to believe that. These people are why these remakes exist in the first place, by the way. They're not made for fans of the series, that's the point. They're effectively palette swapping and trying to change the integrity of the very thing they're remaking for the sole purpose to turn it into something that it never was. And they're hoping that enough people are too dumb to realize it, like the Mischief guy was. Like one user would ask that Niles Sankey guy who worked on Halo 3 and Reach this: why are women the problem? I absolutely agree that dialogue is just terrible, but I don't understand why this criticism is always undercut by "she's also a woman," to which Niles replied, "Having women in the game is fine. Example, Cat and Reach was well written. I've written women into my own games. The issue is artificial writing and lack of awareness. It's clear that the developers needed to force more diversity into the story, so they made the new main character a girl, as if everything must be 50-50, evenly distributed against all logic. They then use the excuse of lore to make a poorly written character that immediately berates the player, even though it's contextually ridiculous. The end result is a cliche girl boss telling the player how terrible they are in a game where your primarily male audience is already very skeptical of forced social politics. But the developers and leads never stopped and said, maybe the end result here is not achieving our goals of winning back our primary demographic. It's tone deaf on top of being poorly executed, and this hurts branding, it hurts sales, and will destroy a studio's reputation, whatever's left of it anyways. Again, that's a former Bungie developer saying that, so he's speaking from experience here. He was involved in making Reach, so he would know Kat. He was there when they implemented her, so Niles is speaking from experience, and I also agree with him 100%. Halo is, no matter what, a game designed for a male demographic audience. Whether that annoys people, it is what it is, okay? Halo is to men what The Sims is to women. And he's right that changing the logic within the game that most Marines were women is just factually incorrect and honestly shows a lack of understanding of what the audience of a game like Halo is even being made for. There is no single military force in our modern world, or even back then, that was primarily women only. And if there was, like the one example maybe being the Dahomey Kingdom, their female-only military was decimated by male forces because reality is uncompromising and truthful, unlike what these types try to push and force as fact and truth instead. There's no way that Halo should be retrofitted for a female audience when the overwhelming majority who kept that series alive are men. To belittle, erase them, talk down to them is to make a declaration that your new remake version of it is being done intendedly to then spit on the faces of the very fans who got you over the finish line in the first place. This is why I said this in another Halo video, but I would rather have just had the Bungie made Halo game, same graphics and all, just ported to PlayStation over what they did like this any other day, okay? I would love to play Halo as Bungie originally intended, not what 343 Industries thinks Halo is meant to be when they are so clearly just ruining the franchise's name more and more. I do honestly think that Halo is over. I really do. I think there's no way a new Halo game gets made that will be accepted because it, like Star Wars or anything else, is not only a product of its time, but it's something that can only exist if the people who were there, who made it, were still there to make the next game. You can't reasonably make Halo today. All they can do now is LARP and take something that everybody loves and then ruin it further. If that wasn't the case, this Halo campaign Evolve thing would be universally praised and beloved by the community abroad, but it isn't. Microsoft tried the same thing with Gears of War as well, another primarily male-dominated franchise, right? Geared, pun intended, at men, and then they forced in a female main character. What happened? Right, studio had layoffs. And what are they doing now? All right, a prequel with Marcus and Dom, because that's who people want to see. But even then, Gears E-Day is likely going to pull some other nonsense some other way that they're hiding. I don't think Microsoft really understands Halo at all, in my opinion. The beauty of Halo, in my opinion again, was that it was a purist sort of game. It was not infected or ruined by outside forces under Bungie. It was this very distinct project and franchise that was led by a group of predominantly men that decided to make one of the greatest trilogies of first-person shooter games and spin-offs the world has ever seen. To make a new Halo that is beloved as the original is like to say someone out there can outdo the original Star Wars trilogy that George Lucas made all the way back when. It's likely impossible because, obviously, George Lucas made Star Wars. OG Bungie made Halo. And not the Bungie that exists now. I mean the Bungie in those old vidocs that were those chud men making those chud games for the chud demographics proudly, as they would say.
Master Chief is human. He's not a machine. He's not a set of armor with a...
This is why these people can't understand why people are so against these remakes or modern Halo in general, because it's not Halo. One user tried to defend that Mischief Guy's sucking of Halo campaign Evolved, where they said this: Halo was never good. It was just another garbage FPS game that didn't do anything revolutionary. Incredible bait, but Halo 1 through Reach is still probably one of the only examples of a game developer making the absolute most kino first-person shooters of all time. The Halo games are so influential, you would be a moron to think otherwise, that everything that came out post-Halo wasn't inspired to some degree by what Bungie did. In my opinion, there's probably like 3 or 4 very influential shooter games that changed everything to various degrees released in the past 26 years. So since 2000, okay? One is Halo, obviously. The second is Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. The third is Gears of War. And the fourth is Doom 2016. This is why I believe that every game for the last 26 years was still built around those 4 games. Halo, Call of Duty, Gears of War, and Doom 2016 to some degree. I know some will say Gears of War is third person, but even then, the way that game plays has had massive influence on so many games. I mean, how many third-person cover shooters were made in the PS3 Xbox era post-Gears? A lot. Even Mass Effect's entire gunplay style wouldn't really exist without what Gears did, but the fact you have people defending the remake and calling the fans toxic shows you how these things don't work, as this guy said here. Halo fans are sometimes the worst enemies of their own franchise. Nothing is ever good enough. If Halo disappears one day, it will also be because of part of the community that systematically rejects everything. In the end, Halo will end up dying from its own fans. Oh, my bad. I didn't know the fans made Halo 4, 5 Infinite in the remake or the busted Master Chief Collection. Did you guys get the memo? We all worked on those games, right? It's our fault, isn't it? So that should make sense, no? But this user retweeted the previous guy and said, Halo fans do more damage to this franchise than 343 or Microsoft ever did. They just won't admit it. All right, my bad. I guess I didn't know I was responsible for lying to consumers with the Master Chief lock fight in Halo 5. Sorry guys, my bad. I didn't know that I apparently wrote that and made that game. No, wait, I didn't. So how is that my fault again? Are these people really shaming all of us because we didn't want to buy into bad games that ruin things that we loved? Like, really? We're pulling the humiliation card hoping that it works somehow? This is not anyone's fault but 343 Industries and Microsoft Xbox. If anything, what the modern Halo era has proven, which is now, 16 years old at this point, is they're doing these games. Is that all the proof that you need, that you can't just slap a name on the box and hope people don't notice the difference? Halo is just as much what it is the same way that Dark Souls or Elden Ring or whatever is because of From Software. Once you remove the original developers, 9 times out of 10 it ends in disaster. If OG Bungie with Marty O'Donnell and everybody else were to assemble back like the Avengers and make a new Halo game, it would be the biggest game of the year easily. But this is so clearly not made by those guys and it shows. For example, here's a scene from the remake versus the original. Watch this.
I knew it. The Autumn's accelerating. Keys is going in manual. I knew it. The Autumn's accelerating. Keys is going in manual.
You probably noticed how the original is far more snarky and condescending for no other reason than because they wanted it to be. Well, why is that? It feels weird. I know. I'm okay. So I waited, also by the way, until near the end of this video because I knew someone would get mad if I put this in the beginning, but I want to talk about the ending of Halo 1. I guess spoilers if you somehow don't know how the original Halo ends, which I mean, I'd be surprised if you didn't, but here, I'm going to show you the ending cutscene from this Halo remake, and I honestly feel like this lacks the amazement of the original. Let me know what you think. Here, watch the ending.
Shut them down. We'll need them later.
Did anyone else make it?
Scanning. No. Just dust and echoes. We're all that's left. We did what we had to do. For Earth. An entire Covenant armada obliterated, and the Flood. We had no choice. Halo. It's finished.
No. I think we're just getting started.
Now tell me if I'm crazy, but does that ending feel, I don't know, lifeless to you? Like it's so bland and lacks any punch to it. They even got rid of the shot at the end where the camera pans out of the ship and Chief pulls off his helmet just as soon as it cuts to the corner of the ship so you don't see his face. Instead, they just blandly cut to black with him unlocking his helmet. It's just, I don't know, underwhelming. It has to be made with some sort of artificial intelligence and like not human hands, because I don't know how this was done unironically and released the way that they did it. The whole thing feels like, well, it feels like the original Halo devs definitely didn't work on this, that's for sure. Like you had Cortana here almost happy that everybody got atomized on Halo that was left behind in her delivery, where in the original, there was this sense of almost horror to what happened on the Halo ring. Like you just survived this horrific scenario with space zombies and the like. It's very similar to almost how a Resident Evil game would end, you know? Getting on that last chopper out of Vietnam kind of, but it feels lifeless in the remake either way. But I think before I go, I'll just put the original ending of this game in this video fully so that you can watch it and compare it to what you just saw. And you let me know, what do you think? Thanks for watching, subscribe if you'd like to, and here's the original ending. See you guys next time.
Shut them down, we'll need them later. Fancy a look?
Did anyone else make it?
Scanning. Just dust and echoes. We're all that's left. We did what we had to do for Earth. An entire Covenant armada obliterated, and the Flood. We had no choice. Halo, it's finished.
No. I think we're just getting started.